Of course you can do all the things. Of course you're incredibly competent. You could take care of all the business. But what if you didn't? What if you just surrendered a little bit? This is not an abdication of power. This is not an abdication of intelligence or confidence or self-worth. This is a conscious surrendering of this aspect so that you can receive, so you can really step into receiving. Hello, and welcome to part 2 of leading from your feminine and the 5 key elements for creating a life that you love through the leadership of your feminine. So that's what we're talking about today. If you missed part 1, please go back and listen to it. I give the framework and the setup for why this makes sense and why it's important. And it's quite critical that you listen to that so that you understand the second part of this training. In that first training, we also talked about the first 2 key elements of leading from your feminine, which is claiming your desire and embracing flow. So that leads us to where we are now. So if you've already listened to part 1, welcome to part 2. Here we go. So I want to dive right in without a lot of context or setup, because you've listened to part 1 already. The third key element to leading with your feminine is embracing your emotions. You're a feeling being. You have feelings, you have emotions. I'm using those 2 things interchangeably, even though I know some people define them differently. We as human beings, we're emotional beings. We sometimes have really big emotions, big wild swings of emotions, big feelings. And oftentimes we were taught to tamp those down and be afraid. You know, we were punished, we were looked at askance, we were denied love. When we claimed our feelings, the world didn't know how to handle them. And not because they were necessarily bad or mean people, or that your parents, that they even were conscious of denying you emotions, your emotions. Sometimes they were very conscious of it, but oftentimes it was a very unconscious way of being. They didn't mean harm, but we took it as little ones to be afraid of being too much for the world, okay? Being afraid of wanting too much, of making people uncomfortable. And when we are in that kind of fear, we feel like we need to restrict the expression of our emotions. But the feminine aspect is emotional. Now we have masculine and we have the feminine in all of us, okay? And you may lean more to one side or the other, but there is an emotional wave that is moving through us. And if we deny it, if we limit it, if we say those feelings, those emotions are bad, we limit our power, because the feminine is this emotional power, is this tapping into leading from our emotional truths, okay? And this affects your ability to have honest conversations without retreating, without being afraid. This is being able to fully express ourselves without feeling trapped in resentments or trapped in alternate outcomes that neither of which we particularly like. So let's say you're running a multi-million-dollar business and you're fleshing out what's going on with your leadership team or your C-suite. You need to have access to that emotional intelligence. You need to have access to your own emotions and really tap into that. It's not just about the logic side. It's not just about the analytical mind. It's not just about the systems and the processes. It's also about really tapping into how you are feeling. And this is true whether you're managing a multi-million-dollar business, you're managing team members, you're parenting, you're cultivating your intimate relationships. If you are suppressing your emotions, you're cutting yourself off from a huge depth and well of knowledge of you are not accessing this incredibly potent, important part of who you are. And it is really It is really part of your truth. And it can go off the rails for sure, okay? There's a way in which if you suppress your emotions, they will find form. They will come out. Like water will find its level, right? They will come up. They will express themselves, but oftentimes in very unhealthy ways if you don't know how to embrace your emotions. So unhealthy ways would look like picking fights or being in resentment or not knowing how to express yourself or communicate or feeling like a victim. It could look like on like tangible actions. It could look like being addicted to substances, being addicted to drugs or Netflix or your work or working out. Like there's ways in which we numb out in this world because we don't know how to embrace our emotions, and it keeps us isolated and alone. And it's not a really powerful way to lead. And oftentimes we do that because we don't trust ourselves. We don't know how to embrace it. We feel like we're going to be overwhelmed by them. Okay. But it's not healthy to suppress them, and it's not healthy to be overwhelmed by them. We have to learn how to embrace them. Okay. And when you embrace the flow of your emotions, you have more access to life force. Okay. Your own power and the power of the universe through you. You become a clearer, more honest, more truthful, more authentic leader. And this doesn't necessarily mean wearing your emotions on your sleeve. Oftentimes that can be quite manipulative. That can be a poor me or a way of guilting other people. We don't want that. It's really about owning and embracing your emotions. So less of the extremes, more of tapping into the truth and, quite frankly, divine love. Okay. So that is a conversation for another time, but just hold that in the frame of things. Next, I want to talk about the fourth element that I am sharing in this context around leading from your feminine. And that is really understanding and claiming your power as a woman. Okay. Now, this podcast is the Unstoppable Woman podcast. My business is the Unstoppable Woman. We are all about embracing the power of being a woman in this life, in this lifetime, in this experience, in this world, in your business, in your career, in your relationships, all of it. Okay. You need to understand your own power. And oftentimes women are afraid of their own power, afraid of their sexual energy. That's an element of being a woman. They tamp it down because they're afraid of what it will mean to express it. It might not feel safe. They might feel like they are opening themselves up to too much, that they'll be misunderstood or misinterpreted. And yet that's a big part of being a woman in this world. And can you own that aspect of your power? Can you own the power of your emotions? Can you own the power of your heart? Can you own the power of your love, your passion, your drive? Okay. Can you do it cleanly without being manipulative about it? So the shadow side is using your feminine power in a manipulative fashion. Okay. Whether it's as a leader, as a lover, you want to really be clean about how you are claiming your power and using that power. So it cannot be manipulative. It has to be very, very clean. And I think oftentimes we don't have good models for that, and it goes to one of two extremes. And really owning your feminine power is about owning this range of who you are in this world and all the aspects of you, and embracing the power that's within the wholeness of you, not in some limited fashion, not some limited sliver. And when you own that, you start having self-ownership. You start really being the authority in your own life. And it is magnetic. It is attractive to others. And rather than pushing for things or grasping for things, you start magnetizing what you desire in this world. And it's really about owning the fullness of who you are, your self-worth, the unique expression of divinity through you, or spirit through you, or infinite intelligence, or the universe through you, and really falling in love with her and not denying that, but claiming the power in being yourself, being you. And really, when you do that, when you stop suppressing, stop denying, stop saying this part of me is wrong or bad or unworthy, but claim the wholeness of who you are, you become magnetic. You become someone who attracts more, whether that's more income, more money, more friendships, more love, more intimacy, more connection, more meaning, more spaciousness, more joy, more pleasure, whatever it is that you desire, you start magnetizing that into your life, calling it in, calling it forward. And this is such a different way of creating or leading your life than from the masculine. Now, I mentioned in part 1 that this is not about denying the action that you need to take or any sort of discipline that's required. It's not either or. You need both, okay? So don't think of this as, oh, I don't have to do anything, or I don't have to have any kind of structure or discipline. You do, okay? But when you really understand that what you desire to create will be so much easier to make manifest when you own the power of being you, your unique self-expression, you will just create with so much more ease and grace. And you'll never look back. You'll be like, oh, that's good. I love that. Now, is there iteration on this? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm going to hold a little carrot for you that when you create from this place, when you really work at a higher level around this, it is such a delicious feeling and something that I want for everyone. So you really have to own your power, understand your power, and use your power for good and with a level of awareness and consciousness that allows it to be channeled in the right ways for you. Number 5 on our list is surrendering to power. Now, what does this mean? It's both surrendering to your own power. Like we just talked about, you have incredible power when you tap into it. When you surrender to that power and you're allowing it to find its form, there's something next level around that. There's a level of trust and release and support and knowingness and faith and confidence that all drops in. So there's surrendering to your own power, not being afraid of it. There's surrendering to the power of others. Part of that is surrendering to the masculine in others. Okay, so that can be the masculine in a team member. That can be a masculine in a life partner. That can be a masculine in your best girlfriend. But there's a way in which we have to learn and embrace surrendering to the masculine in other people, but also the masculine in yourself. Can you surrender to that aspect of you? There is so much power in this. And then there is power in surrendering to life force, the power of life force. This is about knowing how to own your power and allow for it. But like life is moving through you. There's a force of life that's moving through you. And if you can surrender to that and trust it, you have so much power. You have so much ability to create. You're tapped in to infinite intelligence, to the life force of life, of the universe, of all things everywhere. Okay, so in your business and your career, this looks like holding your center, which is a movable center, right? We are like water. There's the feminine is flowing through us. There's energy flowing through us. There's life force moving through us. as you respect the container, okay? And the container, the structures of your business, the structures of the company, honoring it without being it, like without being the one to hold it. You can honor it. You can surrender to it. You can recognize it. You can admire it. You can even bow down to it, okay? It is a structure that you need to recognize and acknowledge, okay? And sometimes this is a structure you've created. It's not necessarily a structure that someone else has created, but it is a structure, and that's the masculine. And you need to learn to surrender to that, okay? Now, surrendering does not mean, the way I'm using it, does not mean abdicating responsibility. It doesn't mean abdicating your power. In fact, there's an act of immense power if you allow yourself to be supported by the masculine, by the structure. There's so much power in releasing the control, releasing the holding of the container, okay? And in your personal life, this might look like understanding when you need to surrender to your focus, directive, get done, linear aspect and of leading by allowing yourself to be led, right? Like, of course you can do all the things. Of course you're incredibly competent. Of course, like, you could take care of all the business. But what if you didn't? What if you just surrendered a little bit? What would happen? And this is not an abdication of power. This is not an abdication of intelligence or confidence or self-worth or your rights in this world or your say in this world. This is a conscious letting go, okay? This is a conscious surrendering of this aspect so that you can receive, so you can really step into receiving. That means in all sorts of ways, that whether it be like sexually receiving or in how you make plans and manage your life, right? It's like the whole gamut, okay? And often as driven women, we're so competent, we're so talented that we're so able to do all the things because we've had to, that we stay in this place to the exclusion of stepping into receiving and being supported. And we build up, quite frankly, if you're honest, a wee bit of resentment about that. It's like you might hear yourself saying, why do I have to do it? Or why can't she do it? Why can't he do it? Or why are they so not on it, right? Why are they dropping the ball? Why can't they get this done? Why is it always up to me, right? There's like this complaint that happens, and that leads to resentment. And the truth is that you're not surrendering. You're not allowing yourself to be supported. You want to play with this so that you build up trust in the people and structures around you. But there's truth there in an aspect of ourselves that doesn't want to hold the container anymore. Okay. And in that complaint, there's truth. Okay. There's like, I don't want to hold this container anymore, but it's up to you to let go of holding that container. Okay. Being the one to set the frame. Okay. And it doesn't mean you never want to hold it again, or that you're not capable of holding it, or that you are unworthy or not smart enough or not competent enough. It means that for this period of time, you just want to be supported. You want to be held. We want to let go of that form of responsibility and trust that the container is going to hold us. Trust that the business is going to hold us. Trust that the company is going to hold us. Trust that our man is going to hold us. Trust that our woman is going to hold us. Trust that our friends are going to hold us. And sometimes they don't, because they're so used to you showing up a different way, or because they're not the right structure for what you need. And there are missteps and disappointments. And yet you still need to claim that desire to be supported and allow yourself to surrender and learn how to do that in a way that is viable, that works, so that you trust that you are supported, that you trust that you can surrender and that you will be held. And it's held by the structures of a business, held by our relationships, held by life in general, by the order and the love of infinite intelligence, of God, right? Of all that energy that is. that it's holding you. And if you learn to lean into it and surrender and trust, you will be supported. Now that is a talent. I still am evolving, but it's so delicious to experience it, and I experience more and more and more as I really lean into that. So this kind of leadership is leadership. When we tap into surrender, this is leadership with complete trust. And this is so important because it's without the doubt, it's without the confusion, it's without the insecurity, it's without the scarcity. The come from is not fear anymore. When you feel like you have to hold the container or else it's all going to fall apart, that is fear. Okay? Versus I'm supported. That is trust. That is abundance. That is not being in scarcity or fear. That is in faith, trust. And there's a little balance and a windy road there. So those are the 5 key elements that I'm sharing in this training on what it's like to lead from your feminine. So we covered claiming your desire, embracing the flow, embracing your emotions, really understanding and owning your power, and then surrendering to power. Those were the 5 key pieces that I covered in this training. I'd love to hear what you took away from this, what landed, what was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and what might have been a little bit perplexing to you. I want to hear it all. So please share that with me, reach out to us, comment, and we cannot wait to hear from you. Okay, rock it out, be unstoppable. I'm Amira Alvarez. I'm the founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman, and I can't wait to see you in the next podcast. Bye.